Hello, everybody. This is going to be quite an interesting presentation, in my opinion, so hopefully you will enjoy it as well. You'll probably notice that I'm going to speak fast because I speak fast about the topics I'm passionate about, and I'm really passionate about portfolio and project management, especially in the Atlassian ecosystem. My goal is to always provide as high value as possible with everything I do, and today is not going to be any different, so I promise you that by the end of this talk, you will have learned something new. And the presentation is structured in a way that I'm going to first show you the results of the transformation that the Boubyan Bank went through to kind of hook you in and create more interest around what was actually done. But then I'm going to go into many different things. Some of them will be the problems that we were facing or the bank was facing, the solutions and what they ended up with. But I'm pretty sure, I predict that most of the value that you will get out of this talk is not hidden among the solutions that I'm going to show you, but it's actually somewhere in between. So listen carefully. The number that you see in the top right corner, $250,000 annually, this is basically the business case that we came up with after analyzing the whole transformation and figuring out what has been done. And what contributes to this number are the first 3 bullet points. So the first one is reports. They basically said themselves, hey, we're spending like 70 hours per department, per month, creating reports and wasting a lot of time on that. So this was one of the things that they got rid of, and that contributes to the savings. The second one is status meetings. We estimated that because of the better structure of everything that they had in a company now after the transformation, people are saving at least 15 minutes per week, and by people I mean managers basically over here. And the last element is emails, follow-up, manual data entry. So basically again, because of the improved information flow, better visibility into everything, more accuracy in regards to the data, we estimated that each user is saving about 3 minutes per day. And now if you multiply this by an average salary, by the number of people in the company, number of managers, number of departments, you will get $250,000 per year. So this is the amount they are saving yearly. But I would argue that actually the biggest value they got out of this transformation is hidden in the last bullet point. So we're going to take a vote in a moment. And we're going to vote. The question is, which one of the 4 elements hidden in the 4th bullet points do you think is the most important? So number 1 will be improved information flow. Number 2 is high trust in data. Number 3 is less mistakes made by people. And number 4 will be more engagement and innovation. Who thinks it's number 1? Hand up. Who thinks it's number 2? High trust in data. Okay, some hands. Who thinks it's number 3? Less mistakes. Fewer hands. And who thinks it's number 4? More engagement and innovation. Okay, so for those of you that don't have an overlook at the whole room, I can tell you that number 4 got the most number of votes, number 1 the least number of votes. I don't see all of you very clearly, but I didn't see too many hands raised. My take on this is that number 1, the improved information flow, the high information flow, is actually the most significant out of all of those. Because high information flow creates better communication. And better communication is brilliant because the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that has taken place. A beautiful quotation by George Bernard Shaw. I love this one because it beautifully shows what happens when the communication, or like what happens and why the communication is missing. I'll tell you a little bit of a story regarding the communication in general and why I think it's the most important element. Several years ago, I've been working as a team leader. I was managing the group of project managers who were responsible for leading projects in the company that I was working for. One day, at the end of the year, we sat down and we started analyzing all of the projects that we were conducting throughout the year and all of the mistakes that happened in those projects. And the goal of this exercise was to figure out what are the root causes of all the mistakes, so that, of course, we can improve and get better next year, make less mistakes. So when I was designing this exercise with the team, I was thinking, okay, we're probably going to come with several groups of the leading root causes. Maybe it's going to be like bad estimates, maybe bad planning, maybe misunderstanding regarding the requirements, stuff like that. When we went through this exercise, the astonishing fact for me personally was that 100% of all the problems in all of the projects that we ran during that year, we were able to attribute to misinformation, lack of information, or basically someone didn't tell someone else about something important, period. This was mind-blowing to me. I immediately started thinking about all the other projects that I was leading through the rest of my career, because I've been working as a project manager for the most part, and asking myself a question: would better information flow actually solve the problems that we were having there? And again, the answers were yes. Even today, I was on one of the lectures listening to it, and people said, that the people leading the talk said that during the problem that Atlassian faced in 2022 when servers went down for many of the customers for several weeks, the problem or the cause of the problem was the miscommunication between the Atlassian teams internally. So that's why I believe that this element is so important. And let's take another vote. So I want you to group into two groups. The first group will be people who think that are optimistic. Second group will be people who think that you are pessimistic or realistic. So optimistic people, hands up first. All right, that's good to see. So for you, I have this quote: communication is the master key that unlocks all doors. Never estimate its power, and let your voice forge the connection that shape your destiny. So I basically put communication is key into ChatGPT and asked it to make more epic. You optimistic people will appreciate it because you always believe in yourself, and you also can take a joke. For the rest of the group, I assume that all the other people that haven't raised their hands, you're in the same group as me, more realistic, more down to earth. For the rest of you, the message is this: communication is the key, and even knowing this, you will still fuck up. That's just how it is. We are not perfect, we're going to make mistakes. So there is no avoiding this situation. It's just the way it is. So because we are not perfect, and because we are going to make those mistakes, then the communication that we are going to be conducting among our teams, among the departments, basically inside a company, is going to be flawed. And if the communication is flawed, it turns out that we are making assumptions, and some of those assumptions will simply be wrong, and wrong assumptions kill. Who knows the quote, assumptions kill? Some of you have been watching Reacher? Exactly. Okay, in our line of business, assumptions maybe don't kill, but sometimes they have severe consequences. So we want to have less assumptions and more certainty, and better communication leads into this, right? So if you are looking at the graph between assumptions and communication like this one, and it's more skewed towards the great communication, awesome, you're in a good place. And so now, like, we have information flow that contributes to better communication. It also contributes to better collaboration. So I'll give you another quote, this time from Charles Darwin. In the long history of humankind, those who learned to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. So this is why I believe that everything that we are talking about so far, starting from information flow, which contributes to better communication, which contributes to better collaboration, which contributes to better decision making because it's more informed, which contributes to people have a better insight into what's going on inside the company, therefore that can be more creative about finding the solutions to the problems or challenges the company is facing. It all comes down to an effect that is tremendously valuable. But it's also intangible. It's hard to put it into numbers, and therefore many people don't realize it. But I do, and I strongly believe that this is a very high value. Okay, so I talked about it for a long time. You probably now think, okay, we were supposed to hear some case study over here. Let's get into that. I got you. We're going to get into the challenges. Let me switch the slide already. So we're going to talk about some challenges that the Boubyan Bank was facing. Then we're going to go into solutions and the end picture kind of. I'm only going to talk about the ones that are marked with the light bulbs. For those of you in the back, don't worry. You don't have to read this slide. I'll read it for you. So it's divided into 3 sections: ways of working, technical restraints, and workforce related. For the first section, the first problem challenge that they had was lots of manual work. Lots of manual work connected with the fact that they were doing the reports manually. They also were moving data between different places, also manually. Some repetitive tasks were repeated manually all the time. So huge opportunity to do something interesting over here. The next challenge is different approaches to PPM across many teams. PPM is Portfolio Project Management. This happens very often. When we are working with our clients, this is something that, especially in medium and large enterprises, happens very often. It means basically that you have multiple teams inside a company, and some of those teams are working agile, some of those teams are working waterfall, others are working hybrid, right? And it's like the causes for this, that there are many. The solutions are usually 2, and I'll talk later on which solution we took over here. In the technical restraints, the biggest one was that they had 3 main systems that were holding the important data. Jira was one of those systems, Cyforma, and also Microsoft Project, which they use for project management. And these are just 3 main systems, because depending on which team you've asked, they were actually working with 4 to 8 different systems, right? So this manual changes, manual movement of data, it also had to happen between those systems because they were not fully integrated. So that was like, for them, it was a huge pain in the butt. Another light bulb I have over here is lack of reports, always very important, because even though they were making some reports, spending a lot of time manually doing this, they simply didn't have sometimes enough time anymore to conduct all of the reports or prepare all of the reports they were looking for. And in terms of the workforce-related challenges, the only one I'm going to mention over here is that they were a bit concerned about the learning curve of the new tool, and this is something that they were more worried about than us, because we have a process that basically takes care of it, and we were pretty sure that, okay, we are going to knock this one out of the park, no worries about it. So let's take a look at the solutions. The solutions are on the right. Again, don't bother reading it. Before I even get into what's on this slide, I'll give you an insight into a general solution that has to happen in these kind of cases. And for some of you, it's going to be obvious. You'll be like, why would anyone do it any other way? For others of you, it might be something completely new. And I've learned this, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And after learning this, what I'm going to tell you in a moment, I've never wanted to want it any other way, as a project manager myself, for the most of my career. So what I mean is, when you're working already with Jira, or some part of your team is working already with Jira, it makes so much sense to bring your project and portfolio management into your Jira environment as well, so that everything is integrated and you have a single source of truth for everything that is happening. You have instant reporting. People who are project team members are already working on your Jira tickets. So now, when they change the status, you see it immediately. When they report some work logs, for example, on the issues, you see it immediately. When they close a certain period of time, close the sprint, move to the next one, again, you will see it immediately in your project management tools in Jira, right? So this is, again, something that some of you will be like, sure, this is how we work, this is obvious. But for the bank, for example, it was a completely new journey, right? Because they were working with Microsoft Project mostly, doing their planning over there. So switching now to Jira is like a completely new environment for those people that were responsible for project management. But also a tremendous benefit, because moving this stuff to Jira means that you now don't have to have 2 separate places for doing this, and they are not disconnected but fully connected. Okay, so For manual changes, many different approaches to PPM across the teams, we basically standardized the way those teams work. And as I said before, there are two ways of doing this. The way that we did it this time is that we still left the teams with quite enough of flexibility in terms of how they are going to be doing their work, because those teams appreciated this freedom. So we didn't want to take this away from them. But at the same time, company needs to be able to report data on the level of project, program, and portfolio, and this data needs to be consistent. So at least from the certain level of the hierarchy, they had to standardize. And that's what we did. So we told them, look, on the level of the project, program, and portfolio, you need to follow the guidelines. Everything below that, your choice. If you want to go sprint, go to sprinting, go to sprints, do sprints. If you want to use Kanban, use Kanban. Like if you want to use tasks, use tasks. If you want to use user stories, use user story, whatever grinds your gear, right? And teams were very happy about it. Of course, we also always introduce some kind of templates to save time, and when you're creating new projects, when you're injecting data into existing projects. So this has happened as well. And then the next area, so the technical restraints area, the things that happened over there is that first of all, we introduced the PPM tool that I already mentioned, that we are moving the PPM into the Atlassian ecosystem. In this particular case, we've used BigPicture, but this doesn't mean that this BigPicture is the best tool for everybody. But in this case, we used Jira plus BigPicture to cover the PPM needs. We've also took some effort to replace some of the features that they were very used to in Microsoft Project. So because they were switching from Microsoft Project, and for example, Microsoft Project has a certain way of calculating the progress, they wanted in Jira to have the progress calculated in the same way. So we basically scripted it for them so that it feels familiar, and when they are looking at the progress, they immediately understand that it's the same as they had in Microsoft Project previously. Apart from that, we did some other automation to automate the things that could be automated to replace the repetitive tasks. So pretty decent and standard stuff over here. Everything was done with script, I believe. And last but not least, we also, of course, introduced the tool for reporting, right? Because they were missing a lot of capabilities in terms of reporting. So we used EasyBI for this, an amazing tool, an amazing plugin for reporting. Again, not the only one. There are several others that are really cool in the Atlassian ecosystem as well. But in this case, we went with EasyBI because it was ticking all of the boxes. And it basically meant that now everybody on every level of the company basically have the link. They can go visit the dashboard and they see all the information that they are interested in. They have been trained in how to consume this information. Happy. Cool. And the last bit, so concerns about the learning curve. It's basically, as I said before, we weren't worried about it because our implementation process of PPM tools is thinking about this from the get-go, and we have dedicated training for each level of the company, so the project teams, the project managers, top management, admins, of course, as well. So everybody got what they were looking for. And one more thing that I want to mention over here is something that sometimes is very important for some of the companies. Usually when I'm talking with people, and let's focus on BigPicture because this is something that we implemented over here, and I'm like, for example, telling them, look, now we have BigPicture, it's an amazing tool. Everybody should be able to go over there and find information that is going to help them get through their day, help them understand what's going on with the company. And by everybody, I mean everybody, so including project teams. So when I'm telling this, sometimes people are like, nah, I'm good. I'm part of the project team. I don't want to go into BigPicture. It's a new tool. I don't want to learn a new tool. I'm fine with my sprints in Jira. I'm like, but if you go to BigPicture, you'll get this and that and that. It will help you understand this. The visibility of dependencies is better and so on. No, I'm good, right? And then I finally say, okay, so if you don't want to go to BigPicture, you don't have to. And then they say, well, you should start with that. Because sometimes it happens that people are resistant to change and they don't want to learn the new tools, and they are good the way they are. And the amazing thing is that if configured properly, introducing tools like BigPicture, Structure, and many others, you actually don't have to push your project teams into the tool. You obviously need to bring project managers, program managers, portfolio managers into those tools, but not necessarily the project teams. And that's the beauty of it. Okay, so in terms of the overall benefits, they got one system. I hope you already understand this. So, high efficiency, lots of automatic updates, custom solutions for some parts of the system, high data accuracy, high credibility. Awesome. Everybody is happy with this. Consistent reporting, so tailor-made reports for everybody, as I mentioned. Contextualization of those reports, so whenever you're looking at the data, you know exactly what kind of context is underneath this data. And a very important fact is that also the top management is getting their dedicated place, because top management, these people, they are like, we don't want to learn anything. Just give us the link, we will go there. If we like what we see over here, we will be grateful, right? So you always have to take care of top management, because top management is paying for everything. So if they are happy, everybody's happy. So they got their piece as well. And time saving, I'm not going to get into this anymore. You should understand by now how the time saving, how time saving contributed to all of this. And that's basically it. That's basically it. So as I said, like the journey that we took over there is pretty, it was pretty lengthy. The bank was amazingly supportive along the way, and they were very happy with the result. We currently are working with them still, so it shows that the job has been done very well, and they trusted to support us along the next part of their journey. But I have like 20-something minutes to go through this presentation, so you're not going to learn a lot from like the solutions that we've applied themselves, like basically getting the list of plugins that we've used. So to deliver you more value in this talk, I thought that maybe some actionable tips that you can actually take away if you would be thinking about taking the company on such a journey would be something that you would appreciate. So I got 4 for you. First one is choose the right tool set. And this one is important because even though I'm talking about BigPicture in this presentation, it's actually not the only tool available in the Atlassian marketplace. So we usually work with BigPicture, Structure, Tempo Suite in general, the built-in Jira, you could call it advanced roadmaps or plans, available in Jira Cloud with the premium subscription. So all of those tools have their pros and cons. And picking the right tool for the job is very important, because when you commit, you're going to be working, you're going to be stuck with this tool for the next few years at least, right? So you want to step into the right part of the ecosystem. Therefore, spending some time in analyzing which tools are actually going to be best for you is something that I would absolutely recommend. This is something that we always do for our customers at the beginning, unless they are already committed to a tool. If they already have the tool that they are working with, paying for it already, probably doesn't make sense to change, unless they are super unhappy with what they are doing and they are missing some important features. Second thing is, think about your reports early on. Now, this might seem obvious, but it actually is not most of the time. And often we see implementations that basically are focused on the flow of functionalities. Like, we want to deliver this functionality and this functionality and this functionality, so people go through the configuration, 1 iteration, 2, second iteration, 3rd iteration, and then finally when they are happy with the functionalities, they're like, okay, so now let's build all the reports that we need on top of that. Now, this could be okay, but sometimes it's not. So if you think about those reports from the risk perspective, I don't know if you know BigPicture. BigPicture has a risk module. So if you visualize the risk module from BigPicture, it basically categorizes risks by 2 values, probability and consequence. So if I would use these, then I would say that those reports would have low risk but high consequence. What I mean by that is that most of the time, if you think about risks somewhere towards the end, you will be okay. Nothing bad will happen. But sometimes you will want to create a report that suddenly is not possible because the underlying structure of your Jira data doesn't allow to create this report. And that's the problem, because now you have to do the rework, and it's going to be a significant one. So that's why we always think about the reports early on, so that later on we are not surprised. And if we have to change the structure of the underlying Jira data, we do it now at the beginning of the implementation rather than later on in the end. The third one is be creative with solutions. I love this one a lot. I love this one a lot because it has some depth connected to it. It can be explained in 2 different areas. Be creative in terms of your processes and be creative in terms of the tool sets. In terms of the processes, This is actually super interesting. Whenever I'm talking with people that I meet for the first time, new prospects that are engaging us, for example, I always ask how you're working with your project. Is it more waterfall? Is it more agile? Is it hybrid? Like, where are you? So let me ask you this question as well. If you are not purely agile, not purely waterfall, but somewhere in between, hybrid, agile, whatever you want to call it, raise your hand, please. Okay, those that are purely agile, hand up. Those that are purely waterfall, hand up. Those that didn't raise their hands at all. I see you. All right, but my observation, and the room kind of agrees with it, is that like 80% of the companies we are talking with, they are somewhere in between, they are hybrid. And amazingly, very often when I talk and ask this question, I feel that they are somewhat ashamed of this. And I don't think that it should be the case, honestly. I think it's okay to be hybrid. I think it's okay to be somewhere in between. And I also think that sometimes it's just by accident. Maybe the company didn't get to the transformation yet. They didn't even try to get better at it. But sometimes it's by design, because you went and became creative with your processes, and you took the parts from several different methodologies maybe that work for you, you combined them and created your own methodology that works for you. And that's fine. There's nothing to be ashamed of. But this is an example of being creative in terms of the processes. And going through this transformation is like, going for the agile transformation, whatever transformation, is super time-consuming and costly, right? So we help companies do that. We know how long it takes, and there is nothing wrong with being somewhere in between. But also being creative in terms of the tools is another thing. This is also brilliant when you're thinking about, each tool has a set of functionalities, and those functionalities are designed to do a certain thing. But it doesn't mean that you should always use those functionalities in the way that official documentation describes that. If you get creative about how you can apply certain features of the tool to fix the problems, challenges that you have in your workspace, it might be pretty interesting. The two examples I have over here are one of my favorite ones. So for example, you can use BigPicture for fast issue linking. If you go to the Gantt or the scope module in BigPicture and you do an indentation, which you can do selecting multiple issues, then in a few seconds, basically you get links between the top, like the parent issue and all the child issues. If you try to do it through the standard Jira interface, like clicking, filling in the issues, searching for them, it's very time consuming. This is brilliant, and it hasn't been designed to do that, not at all. Another one that I love is that in BigPicture there's a module for objectives. It has been originally developed to help companies who are working with Scaled Agile framework. There are objectives in the process over there that you basically have to develop, come up with, and later on control as well. But this module can very beautifully be used for simple objective-based planning, which every company can use. And I'm a big advocate of this, so I'm really happy that many of them actually take my advice. The last one, success is driven by adoption, is also something that many people don't realize. So it doesn't mean, it doesn't matter how well the configuration of your tool is, how brilliant the tool you have if people are not using it. So that's why the adoption is something that, again, similar to the reports, you should start thinking early on and drive the adoption with every step that you take along the way. This is something that we've used to design our processes for the implementation. And I know that the customers that go through the implementation are super happy at the end, because we've taken the steps to educate everybody about the new tools, show them the benefits, put their hands on the tool, have some hands-on session with them, make them realize the benefits that they get out of it. So whenever you're introducing something new, always think about the adoption, because it's going to be a big factor to contributing to the end success. And that's basically the end. That's what I got for you. Who has learned something new during this presentation? Okay, who hasn't learned anything new during this presentation? Who wants to hear a fact that I had prepared in case of someone raising the hand for the last question? Okay. So there is a species of frogs that can hibernate and basically freeze. When the temperatures go below zero, they become rock solid, they freeze, their heart stops, they are not breathing, and they stay in this hibernation until the temperatures go again above zero. They thaw out, defrost basically, and they come back to life. How amazing is that? Okay, my name is Tom. Thank you so much for listening to the talk and attending to the talk. Thank you very much.